Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. This is episode number 161. My name is Jason. I am the owner of Outdoor Legacy, and we specialize in night vision and thermal optics sales. And as always, I've got my co-host with me, Mr. Hans from the Hans East Texas YouTube channel. How are you, sir?
I am great. Episode 161 is going to be fantastic. I know for all you night vision hunters out there, you stay tuned because we've got a lot of information for you. But before we get into that, I want to thank or recognize, I guess also thank, but recognize Memorial Day was last weekend. And this is a time to honor the people that, gave up the most. And, the ultimate sacrifice that was made by the people that did everything that they could do to protect what we have and what we love. And that's our freedom in our country. So thank you to people out there also that are serving, veterans, active military, men and women out there, but definitely want to honor those that made that ultimate sacrifice, and that's what Memorial Day is for. So honored to be here on the show, honored to live in this country that we have, even though there's difficult times. It's still the best country in the world, and will always be. So, but Memorial Day was fun as always. We've had some decent weather. We got to do some cooking out. I know you did some crawfish. We did some crawfish too, and got a little bit of pull time. So I mean, it was good.
Yeah. That's right. Excellent. Well, I tell you what, folks, we do have a good show today. I am excited about it. I think it's something that we get a lot of requests for. A lot of guys are like, hey, all y'all ever talk about is thermal, when you're doing reviews and stuff. Well, that's because there's a lot more thermal scopes out there. But Hans, tell them what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, a lot more thermal scopes and a lot more new thermal scopes coming out,
Right.
here in the last year or so. I do see some more night vision stuff coming out down the road, but as always. But today we're going to be doing and comparing the Sightmark Wraith HDs. So there's two different HD models. You got a lower magnification model and a higher magnification model. We're going to go over the specs of those, and also we're going to go over the Sightmark the 4K Max. So you've probably seen those. We talked about those a while back. We just now started seeing those coming out in the market. People finally are getting their scopes after a very long wait. And now people are coming up with the dilemma now of if they're looking to get into night vision, either for the first time or looking to upgrade, is which one should I get? Which one's going to be better for my situation, what I'm hunting, the distances I'm hunting at, and taking a look at the features of both of these line of scopes, the 4Ks and the two different HDs. So what's going to be different? Why, what's going to want to make you choose a more expensive night vision scope over the less expensive? There may be people out there that the less expensive model's better for you. So we're going to lay out the scope, the specs of both of these scopes. We're going to go through, just the differences, what advantages or disadvantages one might have over the other. And really, ultimately, is how to decide which one's going to be best for you. So stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of information, but we're going to be delivering it pretty quick just to run through these specs.
So, I'm going to jump on the specs here for the HD models first. Now, I want to make a quick comment. There are two HD models. There is a 2-power base magnification model that goes up to 16 with a digital zoom. Excuse me. And there is a 4-power base magnification that goes up to 32 power with a digital zoom. They are the exact same price of $499. All right. So the 2X or the 4X, same thing. They are the same scope minus the magnification and the objective lens size. This is my opinion, don't let the objective lens size be any reason to buy one or the other. The lens is there to create the higher magnification, the larger lens. So don't worry about that. All right, let's just go with, and some field of view. So let's just go with the magnification that you need, and we're going to talk about some field of view here in a minute. So 2X and 4X versions, again, these specs are going to be the same for both of them. They are 1920 by 1080, which is considered 1080p HD. So that's the imaging sensor. 1980 by I can't even say it. 1920 by 1080. I'm reading it. I keep looking at it like this doesn't look right. All right. Full color HD mode. So in the daylight, it is a really nice full color image. At nighttime, it is black and white, or it has a green tint mode. It is HD recording, and it records on a micro SD card that you can, you buy separately, and you just put in a little slot on the side. It has 10 reticles with 9 color options, 5 different rifle zeroing profiles. It's rated for down to negative 15 degrees. 308 recoil recoil rating. Sorry, it is water resistant. Uses 4 AA batteries, and we'll talk a little bit later about some of the battery stuff. But you're going to look at somewhere around a 3 to 4 hour battery life with just a normal Energizer Duracell quality alkaline battery, and it weighs about 36 ounces with the batteries in it. And so, as I mentioned, we've got the 2 to 16. That has a 42-foot wide horizontal field of view at 100 yards, left to right. And then the 4 to 32 is half that. It's a 21-foot field of view, left to right at 100 yards.
Yeah. So that's a rundown of the 2 different HD models. Basically, the thing you need to know, the difference is one's a 2 power, and one's a 4 power. So
that's it.
So getting on to the SiteMark 4K Max specs, the price on this, $799. It is a 3 power base magnification up to 24 power. The resolution is 4,000 by 3,000, so it is considered 4K. So 4,000 by 3,000. It has full color daytime image. So if you're using it during the day, it has a daytime mode, full color, black and white, green, black and white, green night mode. That's a lie. This seems like a tongue twister right there, but it does record in HD or 4K on a micro SD card. It has 10 reticles with 9 different color options, 4 different rifle profiles. It's rated down to negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit. It's recoil rated to a 308 caliber. It is water resistant. It has an internal battery, so it's one of the bigger differences between this and the HD models. The battery life, they say it's between 4 and 8 hours, and you're probably thinking, man, that's a large swing. Which one is it? Is it 4 or 8? Well, if you are running Wi-Fi at the same time you're using the scope, that's going to drain more battery. So what they're saying is if you're running Wi-Fi while you have the scope turned on, it's probably going to be, 4 to 5 hours of runtime. If you have the Wi-Fi turned off, it's probably going to be more like 7 to 8 hours of runtime with that feature turned on. It does weigh 35 ounces, and it's a 32-foot field of view at 100 yards. So those are rundown of the max specs and also the HD specs.
I need to correct something, and it's you. I'll take the blame. You said it, but I said it to you when we were talking before we started. I used the wrong word, and I said that the 4 hour batteries, if you're running Wi-Fi, it's not if you're running Wi-Fi because there's not a smartphone app. It's actually if you're recording. So I did say Wi-Fi. It's my fault. So hey, real quick, since we're talking about that, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up because I would have totally forgot it. So this has actually worked out. Inside the 4K unit, there is the option to turn on Wi-Fi, and you can turn it on. And then you go to your phone to connect it, and people always, they call, they email, I need to know what the password is. We don't know what the password is, and it doesn't matter because there is no smartphone app for either of these devices. Yeah. So people get all hung up on it. Well, there's Wi-Fi in there. Well, that's correct, but they have not built a smartphone app. That's just something they put in there in case they ever might build one in the future. They never advertised that it was going to have one. And so far, as of right now recording this, in the 1st of June 2021, there is no smartphone app. There may be something that comes in the future, not really sure, but so don't worry about the Wi-Fi. But anyway, that 4 to 8 hour is actually for recording or not recording. So
that's a great point because I know it's been a big source of some confusion right now.
Oh yeah,
so that's right. It's a good time to pull that. But also, you have the scopes in front of you. What about the mounts? Because I know there's one thing. There's some mounting options as well.
I want to talk about the mounts, and something that we did not even discuss here is the IR illuminator. So I'm going to bring that up as well. So real quickly, I just want to hold these scopes up. This is the HD model, and I know you probably can't see it real well on here. It's got a rubber eye cap here. We've got a focus ring on the front. We've got a Picatinny rail down the top. That's actually where the IR, the stock IR mounts. And I'll get back to that. Right over here, this is where you can plug in a USB external battery pack. Just any normal USB battery pack will work for this and run the scope. It's also where your micro SD card goes. Over here, you got your 4 AA batteries going inside this compartment. Right up on top, I like this design. This is it's the controls. So you have a forward, backwards, left, right, and then a center button. Very simple and easy to use. You got your rear eyepiece focus. So real quick before I get to the mounts, I'm going to go ahead and get this one up. This is the 4K. Now this thing looks really long. It's got this big rubber eyepiece. It is a long eyepiece, and I'll just tell you the truth. I had to find this to put it on here. I run it without it. We can talk about that a little bit in a minute. Something about that eyepiece is really long. It's not my favorite. So this unit, again, we've got this rubber eye cup on the front. One thing that this 4K does have, this unit has it removed, is it has this little small insert that screws on here. And it's kind of, they call it like a sunshade, all right? And so it makes this hole a little smaller. And it helps if it's, bright and sunny outside. But if you're using this at night, you want to take that off because it actually limits the infrared light coming in. So it does, the exact opposite of what you want to do. So this one's already removed on here. It just literally, you can just take your fingers and unscrew it. And, you can use it in the daytime without it on there, but it helps. It gives a little better image quality on bright days. Moving back, we've got our focus right here. This is your objective lens focus. It sticks up here, and you can just grab this and twist it. Coming back over here, I'm going to point something out. So right here, you think, well, there's a hole right there. This is kind of a bad design in my opinion. They have these little bitty, I know you can't see this if you're watching on YouTube very well because it's dark, but there's these little rubber caps. And like this one goes over the SD card. This one goes over the USB port. The problem is that it is super easy to grab one of those. And when you do, it just pulls out. Yeah. And it's not a huge deal, but I don't like it. There are some little aftermarket replacements that some guys are making. I think they're like 3D printing them, and they'll slide down in there. They're super cheap. I know there's some guys.
Yeah, they're easy to pull out, and they're hard to get back in there. Is what I've noticed.
They are.
Once you get them pulled out, it's tough. It can be done, but you're right. Those things come out real easy.
They do. It just again, a little bitty piece of rubber. I mean, it looks good when it's on there, but when you pull that out, it just dangles and it's easy to rip out. So anyway, no big deal there. But I'm just going to show you because it's off on this scope. And then on the top here, this is actually it's a press and turn knob. That's basically your controller here. It's actually pretty intuitive. You're like pressing to click, and you turn to rotate through the menus. Again, you've got your eyepiece focus, and then on this side, you've got a small Picatinny rail. Now, talking about the mounts, both of these scopes come with a standard thumb screw mount on the bottom of them. All right, so they come with a mount. You do not have to buy anything else. If you're going to mount this on a rifle and you're going to leave it, and you're not going to take it off, the mount that comes in the box is perfect. There's no reason to change that out. Just tighten those thumb screws down. However, there are two mounting options extra mounts. So this is the SiteMark mount. It is a dual lever quick detach mount. It runs about $60. We sell these as well. They're very popular. It's affordable. It does its job. Again, 2 QD throw levers. Then for people who want a higher end, nicer option, this scope has it on here, and I'll actually, this is the 4K. I've got it on this one, but I've got one in my hand here. This is the American Defense Manufacturing quick detach mount made for the Wraith. Okay, this is a super little mount, high end. This is the real deal. It's going to cost you about $100, but they are very, very nice. American made, lifetime guarantee, absolutely returns to zero. People ask me all the time, does the SiteMark mount return to zero? And I say, generally speaking, yes. I mean, I think it does a fair job for the money. I wouldn't bet my life on it, but it's a good little mount for the dollar. If you are one of these people that you're going to be really taking this thing off and on all the time, and you want to know that it's going back to zero, or you just want a really good American-made mount, then this is the one to get. Again, the American Defense SiteMark Wraith mount. It works for both the Wraith HD and the 4K Max, and we have got both these mounts available at OutdoorLegacyGear.com. Now, real quick, some more things I need to talk about. We did not mention the IR illuminators. These come with a scope. So if you buy one of these, you're going to get what looks like a flashlight. Looks just like it. Thing is, when you turn it on, you're not going to see anything because it's putting out infrared light. But the scopes can see that light. And this is the actual light that goes with the 4K model. I did not bring the light that goes with the HD, but it mounts up on the top of it on the Picatinny rail. And so this will mount right here on the side of it. Now, both of these out of the box, you're going to get somewhere around 175 to 200 yards out of the included infrared illuminator. A lot of guys want to see further than that. The scope is capable if it has the infrared light out there. And so we sell and recommend the Sniper Hog Lights. We've got a review of these. You can go back to one of the past episodes. You can probably just search that on YouTube, or if you're on one of the podcast apps, you can scroll back through there until you find Sniper Hog Light reviews. This is the 50 LRX. I just wanted to show this. It's got a mount here on it. It's a pretty large light. I mean, it is when you compare these two. This is actually one of the smaller Sniper Hog Lights. This is. There's the 50. It's got a 50 millimeter lens. There's a 66, which is the same housing with a bigger lens. And then there's the Coyote Cannon, and that thing is huge, and it is super bright. But I wanted to mention these, like this 50 LRX. You can get 400 to 500 yards easily out of this light. A 66, you can get over 600 yards, and the Coyote Cannon, you can get out over 1,000 yards. Yeah. So if you're looking for, if you say, hey, I like the scope, but I just can't see enough, I can't see far enough, I want a brighter field of view, left to right, I would definitely check out these Sniper Hog Lights. Again, you can check the reviews of those out, but you can go to the website. We've got them all there. They're going to run, depending on the model, like this is like $175. The 66 is only like $185. So people a lot of times just gravitate, well, it's $10 more. And that's fine, but it just depends if you want that bigger light. And for me, I want to go a little bit smaller because I don't really, 400 or 500 yards is all I need. So if I can save on the size a little bit, I'm fine with that. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, and I think that's basically it. I wanted to talk about the mounts and the IRs.
So, there's to discuss and talk about, a lot of people want to know what the differences are. What's the advantages and disadvantages, and we'll definitely get into all of that. Both of us have used these scopes quite a bit. I shot my buck, my 2020 buck this year with the HD 4-power, and then at the same time what's that?
You shot it with what?
The HD 4-power.
It sounded like you I don't know. Maybe I just heard you wrong. It's not like you had some combination of the two. So you shot it with the 4-power? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, the 4-power. Right. Yeah, so I shot it with the 4-power Wraith HD.
Why were you not using the 4K?
Well, I was testing the 4K at the same time, so I had.
I just couldn't remember. In my mind, it was the 4K. Okay.
I had the 4K mounted on a night hunting rig, and I had the HD set up on my daytime.
Okay.
Because I was deer hunting during, basically in the morning I'd go deer hunt every morning, and then at night I was night hunting for pigs. So I had two different rigs, two different things sighted in. So, but yeah, I used the HD, and I figured my HD rig daytime deer hunting setup was going to be a longer shot than I usually take, because where I set up for my shot, where the bait feeder and all that was 145 yards. So I wanted a little bit more base magnification than just the 3x. But yeah, as far as the both of those scopes, and let's just talk a little bit about the advantages and disadvantages of each, because there's a lot of differences, and sometimes maybe not a ton of differences.
Right.
And what might be an advantage for one person might be a disadvantage for somebody else. And to give an example of that, the battery setup. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people out there that do not like internal batteries. So
that's right.
The HD runs on 4 AA batteries. I mean, lithiums, you can get more runtime out of them, but they take the risk of the regular AA alkaline batteries. Get about 4 hours of runtime on it, but you can go to any store and find AA batteries, and you always will, and you can stack up on them and have them forever, pretty much. Mm-hmm. The 4K has an internal battery, but there's a lot of people out there that likes the fact that they don't have to buy batteries, that they can just charge up the scope and use it when they're ready, and it gets more runtime. So, with those differences and advantages and disadvantages, I'll go through these a little bit, and I'll know Jason will add some of his input as well. But the battery setup being different with the AA's versus the internal batteries, I would say this, and I know that you'll agree because we've talked about this: the SiteMark Wraith HD, the 2-power and the 4-power HD model, the $499, the less expensive one, is probably the least complicated, easiest scope that you will ever set up, and you will ever sight in and ever use. I tell that to everybody I talk to when they're talking about night vision scopes. It is, to me, the easiest one to operate. Like I said, you and I have talked about it. We've gone through it. And we talked to hundreds of people on the phone now about those Wraith HDs. It is just, there's just something to be said about simplicity. Just being able to turn the scope on, operate it, get it set up, get things done. The menu on it, the design of the menu to me is just the best, because it's so easy to use, and it doesn't intimidate people that get easily intimidated by technology. We rarely have anybody call us and say, "Hey, I need help set this thing up." They get it out of the box and get it figured out.
It is. I've got to say, we've sold a lot, hundreds of both of these models, and it's a lot of guys that are buying these sometimes are older guys. And some of these guys will call and tell me, hey, I'm not good with technology. Right. I'm using a flip phone. This is hard. I mean, I'm not going to be able to do it. And I get really concerned, like, oh man, this guy is, what's going to happen when he gets this thing? And, it's so crazy. I will not hear back from those guys. And then maybe we'll talk in 6 months, and he's like, oh man, that was super easy. Yeah, that was great. I was like, wow, good. It is. Hans is right. I mean, I think this is probably, I'm going to say this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know of any night vision or thermal optic period on the market that's any easier than the Wraith HD. I mean, it is very intuitive.
Exactly. And, menu setup, the sight-in process is easy. It's just, the whole thing's just easy.
It's very easy. Now, I want to say this. We talked about, I'm going to play off that a little bit. We talked about when we reviewed the 4K, which, by the way, folks, we have a full review. Hans does as well on his channel, Hans ETX on YouTube. You can go watch his review of the Wraith 4-power. I don't think he did a review of the Wraith 2-power. It came out later. We didn't do a review of it. It's the exact same thing, just a different magnification. Right. And then I know he did one for the Wraith 4K, and we did on this channel as well. But I don't think this is difficult. I think it takes some time, though. The menu is there's a lot in there, and there you can get overwhelmed in trying to change everything. I had a guy that called me the other day, and he was like in the deepest corner of the menu
Right.
and trying to change some bizarre things. Like I didn't know what they meant, and he didn't know what they meant. And I'm like, don't change them. And he was like, well, I want to know what it does. And I'm like, listen, I don't have a clue. Just because you can change something doesn't mean you should. Like nobody has ever asked about this before. I just would leave it alone, you know.
And a good example of that is recording mode. Like on the 4K Max, there's different recording modes. You know, you can record in what 4K. You can record in
4K 30 frames, 4K 60 frames, HD 30, 60. I mean, it's a bunch.
But if you're recording in one mode, when you record, the reticles may not show up on the video.
60 frames per second, then there's no reticle.
There's quite a bit more involved. People that are familiar with cameras and camera settings will probably understand some of the language involved in getting this stuff set up. But most people out there don't understand really what 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second really means, or even cares to know. But it's definitely more involved and a lot more to it. But
it's not crazy hard, though. I mean, I would just say I'm going to set some arbitrary age and say if you're under 45 or 50, there should not be any issues. And I mean, look, that's not an insult to Hans and I fall in that real close to that 45. So, but I don't think it's going to be, no offense to the guys that are 70. I've got a lot of older guys that have bought these too.
Yeah.
I'm just warning you that it's going to take just a little bit of going through and figuring it out, pressing the buttons. It's not overly difficult, but I think compared to the simplicity of the HD, that's where I guess that'd be my point. If I'd never seen the HD, I wouldn't say anything about the 4K. I just think that the HD is so easy, well laid out.
Exactly. Now you may ask, well, man, y'all have been talking really high about the Wraith HDs and the simplicity and all this stuff. Why are people buying the 4K? I think the advantage clearly with the 4K is going to be the picture image. I mean, you're looking at you look at the pixel layout. 4,000 by 3,000 with the 4K Max versus the 1920 by 1080 with the HD. That's just when you hear those
over
numbers laid out,
twice the resolution.
Yeah, just more resolution, more pixels, and it's just going to look better when you line up these scopes side by side. The HD. Here's the thing: if you've looked at the HD and you've never looked at the 4K and you've only seen the HD, you're probably thinking, "Man, the HD looks really, really good." The picture image is good. I love the way it looks during the day and at night. The picture image, this is all I need. Well, when you put up a 4K Max next to the HD, you really see how much difference there is. If you could see them side by side, there's a big picture image difference. It's almost like if you're familiar with thermal, if you look at a 384 resolution scope, or maybe even lower than that, versus a 640. There's a considerable difference in those picture images, and that's why you've seen the popularity of the 4K really here recently, now that they've, the inventory's gotten where it needs to be and they're going out. But that's why everybody wants them, because they know just from, the resolution alone that the picture image is going to be better. It's just like buying a brand new TV. You want a 4K TV versus a 1080p TV. Back in the day, all you could get was 1080p, and that was the best. But now you got 4K. So, but there's, with that being said, with the increased picture image on the 4K, obviously there's also a price difference. You're looking at a $300 price difference. That's a considerable amount. That's not when you're looking at the percentage of price. That's a pretty large percentage of price difference. So that's the advantage of the 4K.
Yeah, I want to say something too. You're talking about this resolution and the image quality. This is something that needs to be brought up, and I was thinking about it when I was going over those specs earlier. There's a mistake that a lot of guys make coming from the daytime hunting world when they move into night vision or thermal. And that is, if you're using your traditional daytime scope, and let's say it's a 3 to 9 or a 4 to 14, You just crank that thing all the way up to 14 power, and it looks great. You didn't lose anything. I mean, but the problem is with these digital optics, it doesn't work that way. It's digital zoom. So where it starts is optical, 2 power, 4 power, 3 power. That looks beautiful. But when you start zooming up, you're going to lose resolution and image quality, and it's going to get grainy on you. And so that's going to happen a lot faster with one of these HD models because it has less pixels. So I tell everybody, the 2 to 16, it's going to look, a good image out to about 8 power, halfway through there, okay? When you get up above that 8 or get into that 12, 14, 16, I'm not saying it's unusable, but it's going to be grainy. It's a noticeable, grainier image. Same thing on the 4 power. It goes from 4 to 32, and I say you can go out to about 16 power. So by the time you get to 16, again, you're going to start losing that image quality. You get above it, it's going to go downhill in a hurry. That's where the 4K comes in. Because of that high resolution, good gracious, you can go up a lot further into that range and still keep a very good,
right.
I'll say less pixelated image. I mean, it looks really good, but again, you started with twice the resolution.
Exactly.
And
and
more
that's
than
why
twice.
I think last week I said you want to buy an optic where you rarely ever have to magnify the image when you're dealing with any type of digital zoom. So the good thing, I think, with the advantage with the HD is that there's a couple different options for base magnification levels. You got a 2 power option and you got a 4 power option. With the 4K Max, you only right now have a 3 power option. So, I think when people call up and they're interested in the Wraith HD, to us, first thing we're going to find out is what are you hunting and what range are you hunting at. And the good rule of thumb is most southern hog hunters prefer the 2X model. If they're shooting primarily under 100 yards, if you are primarily shooting or hunting over 100 yards, we're suggesting that 4X model. For coyote hunters is a big market for it, but there are some hog hunters that are taking longer shots. But I do like the fact that you do have a 2, and I know you're a big fan of that too. You like that HD, the 2 power, because that's just your range. You love 2 power.
I do.
I really prefer the 3 power, sometimes up to 3.5 for hog hunting, because we also do a lot of coyote hunting. But when they added that 2X option to the Wraith HD, I think that almost instantly turned into one of the favorites and one of the bigger sellers.
Yeah, it definitely is. And we still sell, I think we still probably sell a few more 4 powers than 2 powers just because it's been around longer. People are more familiar with it. And also, a lot of guys coming into night hunting for the first time, if they're going for an optic like this, they're used to higher magnifications with daytime stuff, and they don't realize that can be a negative at night. And so, they just gravitate, oh yeah, I want more magnification. And again, it's not good for everybody. Then on the other hand, I would say this, and I mean, Hans would agree with this. You just said it, which you'd said on a past episode, you want to be shooting at your base magnification most of the time. So I've got guys that buy the 2X because they go, oh man, I want this wide field of view. And then I talk to them and they're running it on 8X all the time, or 4X. And it's like, you didn't get the field of view. As soon as you zoom the 2X up to 4 power, you've got the same field of view as the 4 power. You should have bought the 4 power because it's going to have a better image quality at that point. So it is. And I do think that it's kind of, funny that the 4K falls right in the middle at 3 power and right in the middle of that field of view. It's at 32 foot, which is still usable. So I don't know. I think that, deciding which one is, I think that the 4K will do both pretty well. I mean, I think you've got 3 power is not too much. And it's not too low, and you can zoom up because of the higher resolution. You're gonna lose less. So I think it fits the bill for both longer range and shorter range. And then I think obviously, like Hans said, I mean, 2 power for most hog hunters. Now, I'll give you an exception to that. I talked to some guys that are hunting hogs under feeders, and they're like, listen, I'm going to get one shot at this, one shot and one shot only. Maybe one, stops and stands there. I'll get another shot, but I know where they're going to be. I'm not scanning around. I mean, I'm going to be looking out of a blind or a deer stand or something at a feeder at night. Well, the 4 power is not going to hurt you there because, you know where they're going to be. You're not trying to scan around and find them and do all that. And you might want that little extra magnification to make that one precision shot. So I think there are some exceptions to that rule.
Exactly. I think that 3 power 4K is right in my range. I love the 4K max magnification, but with the options of the 2 with the HD, like I said, I was deer hunting with the HD 4X. And, I was at night, I was hog hunting and coyote hunting with the 4K max 3 power. So, with that being said, and with the options that you have, I think if you have a question as far as which model is good for you, the best thing to do, and I'm go ahead and plug it right here, is a good spot to do it. If you have any questions as far as which one is the right one for you, if you say to yourself, I've decided I want a SiteMark night vision scope, this is what I want. I need help picking out which one is best for me. You can always hop on the website, outdoorlegacygear.com. If you know what you want to do and you want to order it and say, hey, I've already figured it out, you can jump on the website and figure it out, and you can get it done and ordered yourself. Or you can call us, 877-350-1818. We'll help you decide on which one's best for you. But there's some differences. There's some advantages and maybe some disadvantages on both different models. But I think really the thing is that people want to know is, how can I decide and help decide which one's best for me? And that's where, Jason, I think, a lot of things that you said is spot on as far as distances and what you're hunting and what you're using it for.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things really comes down to the dollars. It comes down, and I know that there's some guys listening to this going, man, 500 to 800 is a big difference. And there's some guys going, that's not a big deal. I mean, if I'm going to spend 5, what's 8? But here's a different way of looking at it.
You asked my wife, hey, if I said, hey, I want to buy something and it's related to hunting and one's 500 and one's 800, that's a huge difference.
But if she's looking at a couch, it's not much, right?
No,
I mean, if she's at Hobby Lobby, that's not much.
That's just a modest increase. Yeah,
that's right. So here's something to think about. Okay. And I have this discussion with people. Hey, I want to buy one of these. And, if we really like this, I'm going to take my kids and we might want a second one. All right. Well, 2 Wraith HDs, $499 a piece. That's $1,000 to get 2 of them. One 4K is $800. So that's where I think you start to see, I mean, you know what I mean? The 300, you kind of go, okay, you can get 2. I mean, granted, it is $200 more, but you're getting 2 for $1,000, 1 for $800. So if you are going to buy multiples, because that is something that I hear is like, hey man, I really got into this. I want to get my dad one, or want to get my kids and take them. We don't want just one scope. Then that can change the budget, especially if you start adding another $175, $200 for IR illuminators. The same illuminators, will work on either one of them. But if you add that, let's just call this $200. I mean, that now, it's another $400 if you got 2 scopes. So I don't know. I think budget has a lot to do with it. I really do. I think that's one of the biggest things. I also think that there's sometimes the mistake that, the more expensive one is always the one I should choose. And not necessarily. I don't think, let's say this, if you're going to shoot hogs and you're doing most of your shooting under whatever, 100, 150 yards, I don't think you're going to kill any more because you bought the 4K.
Right? Yeah, and exactly. And also to add a little bit onto that, with these, with the improved IR lights that you can now purchase, like the sniper hog lights, it really, I don't want to say it levels the playing field for a lot of these night vision scopes, but it definitely helps for sure. Because it's not limited to the quality of the IR that comes with the scope. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. And, I want to say something that Hans mentioned about comparing the image quality on these. So we had used the HD a lot. I mean, a long time. Very, very familiar with it. I know that my daughter had already killed her first deer with the HD. I mean, we'd used it a bunch. And the first 4K that I got before they were released, Sightmark sent us one, and I looked through it at night, and I was like, well, that's okay. I mean, that's nice. I don't know that it's that much better, but I'm just like, kind of a ho-hum. Well, then I went and I picked up the HD, came back outside and put them side by side. And I was like, oh, wow, now I see it. So it's one of those things like you don't know what you don't know. Right. So until you put them side by side, even what you think your memory can tell you, but once you see the difference, it is there. But the point I am making there is you're not going to pick one of these up and just think it's junk. Like, oh, this is terrible. Yeah. I should have bought some of them. And they're really, really good. It's still HD. So I think it almost comes down, we talked about the TVs you mentioned. You can have a 1080 TV and it still looks really good. You're not sitting there watching a movie and thinking that the image is terrible on it. It may just not be as good as the 4K once you see that. So anyway, I think that it comes down to budget. It comes down to how much you're going to use it too. I mean, I talk to guys that are like, listen, I've got a beaver problem. I've got a, fox problem, getting out here in my chickens, or, coyotes getting my goats or whatever. But it's this temporary problem. You're not doing it for fun. You're not doing it all the time. I need a tool to solve a problem. And when that problem is solved, I hope I don't need this tool again for 6 months or a year or whenever. In that case, I'd probably just save my money and buy the HD. If you're not going to be using it all the time, what's the reason to do that? So, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think you've explained it well. And with these two different, sometimes it's hard to compare scopes. It's not an easy thing. It's probably one of the more difficult things that Jason and I do is really comparing which of these scopes was going to be best for which buyer, because we love a lot of these scopes that we talk about. We're big fans of the HD. We're big fans of the 4K. And we know that it's not going to be the right fit for everybody, but we know that we can always find the perfect scope for you. So like I said before, please call us if you're interested in purchasing a scope, 877-350-1818. If you just want to hop on the website and do it yourself and you got everything done and figured out, you've listened to us enough and we haven't confused you too much by listening to the podcast, you can hop on to outdoorlegacygear.com, find all of the night vision and thermal optics right there on the website. Great site, easy to use. And I'm not even saying that in a biased way.
You're not biased at all.
Not a bias. It's a good website. Anyway, if you are wanting to find out more about our past episodes, if you want to go back and find our full reviews of the SiteMark Wraith HD and the 4K Max, you can find it on thelatenightvision.show.com. You can go through and find all of our past episodes also on YouTube. You can search The Late Night Vision Show, and you can also find us on Instagram and Facebook under the same name. If you want to find Jason, you can find Jason most of the time on hunting forums. This man at night, every night, for as long as I've known him, will get on hunting forums at night and answer people's questions about night vision and thermal optics. He enjoys doing it. I know that forums, sometimes the debates turn into chaos, and sometimes you just want to.
Sometimes I'm just trying to be the voice of reason. That's all.
Yeah. So I know that he's Jason's over there on the Texas Bow Hunter or the Texas Hunting Forum a lot. So if you're hanging out in the optics section of those forums, you'll probably run into him. But yeah, I mean, the man's answering phones all day, talking to people about scopes, and then goes home and answers people's questions on forums. So he'll help you out there too. But you can always find Jason on YouTube at Outdoor Legacy Gear, also on Facebook and Instagram, the same places. You can find me on YouTube, Hans ETX. I've done review videos of both these scopes that we're talking about, both the Wraith HD as well as the 4K Max, and reviews on everything else that we've talked about. There's a lot of through the scope video. There's a lot of hunting videos with them. And, once we do the reviews here, I always, I've had them in my hands for a while, but I like to put together the hunts for people to see what they actually look like in action. So you can find me on YouTube at Hans ETX. You can also find me on Instagram at Hans ETX, where Jason says I hang out probably too much, but he's probably a little bit right too.
Too much.
But yeah, thank you all for joining us after this long Memorial Day weekend, and we are kicking. After Memorial Day, Jason, it's like we are just busting right into summer, which is great.
Summer is spring is sprung and summer is here, and so it is. We're ready for a long, hot, dry summer. I don't know. It's been wet, and it's actually been cool. So we'll see what this summer holds. But either way, we plan on being here, good Lord willing, every week, bringing you more night hunting talk, scope reviews as they come. So stay with us, subscribe, so you never miss an episode. We appreciate y'all coming and listening. Hope you learned something. If you've got more questions, Hans told you how to get a hold of us. But between now and next week, episode 162, I believe, next week, y'all stay safe in the fields and keep making those bacon pancakes.